Hi friends, welcome back to another tutorial with Gems by Kelly. Today we are going to be learning how to do a 4-wire weave for a bail. This is a great design if you want just more detail on your bail, if you want to insert a gemstone on your bail, or if you've just had a thicker stone, which is what we're working with today, and you have so many wires but you don't want 10 different decorative wires to mess with at the top. So this is a really good method to use to get more detail into your piece. So today we've got this gorgeous abalone shell. Abalone shell is very thin and very fragile, so usually you will find these cabochons backed to help protect the piece from breaking on you. This is what's called a doublet. So this one is backed. It's a pretty thick piece, and so we're going to use extra wires. Typically, my go-to is 4 base wires for cages. On this one, I used 5 wires, but I don't want 10 decorative wires at the top to deal with, because even though this is a thicker stone, it's not a large stone. So there's not going to be a lot of space to put decorative wires without covering up a lot of the stone. So we're going to use 4 out of the 10 wires for our bail. So I've already gone ahead and created the base of our cage. For that, I used my 4 pieces of 18 gauge round like normal, but I added a 5th one, which is a twisted 22 gauge square. And then I've gone ahead and done a weave on the bottom. This weave is what we will be recreating on the bail, which is also the same as this weave. So for this, I used 28 gauge round. For the bail, I'm going to use 26 gauge round just so it can be seen better. So let's go ahead and get our bail started so that we can get it done and get our stones set. So 26 gauge round copper wire. And as always, we're going to turn our piece sideways. Index finger in the middle, thumb on the bottom, middle finger on the top. And this is to make sure our wires stay side by side as we create our beginning of our bail. So just like that, we're going to put our 26 gauge wire in the middle here and loop the end of it underneath our thumb. So now our thumb is holding the beginning of our weaving wire, as well as keeping these base wires on our cage straight. So we're going to bring this weaving wire down behind to the back, come up around just the bottom set of wires, and then around all of the wires here, pull nice and snug. But again, if you feel these wires start to roll on each other, you can see on this side I've lost my 22 gauge square. So go ahead and back it up a little bit. We'll fix our wires just like that. And nice and snug. We're going to wrap 3 times total around all of our wires here. 3 is not the only amount that you can do. 3 is just my go-to. Now, we're going to pick our 4 wires that we're going to use for our bail. So I don't want to use this square. So I'm going to bend those out of the way. And I'm going to actually use the very back 2 wires to create my bail. So I'm going to make sure these are nice and straight here. And I pull the correct wires. So I'm going to bring this wire, the second wire back down on both sides. And then the third wire back down on both sides. So now you should still have 4 wires pointing up, 2 from each side. And what I'm going to do is the next 2 in line from the front to back wires, I'm going to pinch in towards each other. So they're side by side. Whereas these back 2, I'm going to bring out just a little bit. I'm going to take my tweezer nose pliers, and down at the base of this, I'm going to bend out move up just a tiny bit, and fold it back in. So now when you're looking at the front, that wire is going to be nearly lined up with these two middle wires. We're going to do that same thing on this wire number 1 here. So again, we're going to bend out, move up just a little bit with our tweezer nose pliers, so we're not right at the base of the wire here, we're just up a little bit, and then fold back in so we create a little bit of a bend on either side there. And now you've got 4 wires side by side. As you move up, these up here will get closer to each other. So now we're going to bring our weaving wire back around, like we're going to do another full loop, but instead we're going to come up to our wire number 1 right here. And we're going to do 1 full loop around wire number 1. Now that loop is going to disappear behind your bail. That's okay. As you build it up, it's going to become more and more visible. So we've gone once around wire number 1. We're going to come up to wire number 2 right here. So come over top to wire number 2. And we're going to do a full loop around wire number 2. So now our weaving wire should be in between wires 1 and 2 and coming out towards us. Now we're going to fold that weaving wire up so we can step up to wire number 3 here. And we're going to do 1 full loop around wire number 3. You can pull a little snug to get those wires closer together, but don't pull so tight that you aren't able to fit your weaving wire back in between. Now the first couple sets of patterns that we're about to do here, they're going to be all sorts of wonky, as in they're going to be going at an angle. They're not going to be going straight up and down like these ones are. They're going to be at an angle, and that's okay. We can fix that. So after we've got 1 full loop around wire number 3, same thing. We're going to bend up to wire number 4 and do 1 full loop around wire number 4. And so now our weaving wire is facing away from us, but it's on top. We're going to take this weaving wire, bend it down, and come all the way back down to wire number 1 behind all 4 wires. So one more time. We're here, we're going to fold down and come all the way back down towards us. And we're going to repeat those same 4 steps. So 1 loop around wire number 1, 1 loop around wire number 2, and 1 loop around wire number 3, and finally 1 loop around wire number 4. And again, we're going to come all the way back down to wire number 1 behind. So you should have a straight line of wire behind, in between each of your 4 loops around, 1 straight wire coming down behind. So once more, 1 loop around wire number 1, 1 loop around wire number 2, 1 loop around wire number 3, and 1 loop around wire number 4. Now you can see there's big old gaps in between each of those patterns that I did, and each of the circles, each of the loops are not super close to each other, and they're going at an angle. And so what I'm going to do now is bring this weaving wire back down and do 1 loop around wire number 1, just like I was about to start another pattern. Take my tweezer nose pliers and go above all the weaving. Very gently pinch on those base wires, and I'm going to push down and sliding all of those right next to each other. Now you can see it's starting to look like these ones. Every 3 or 4 patterns like that, I go ahead and slide them down. So now we're going to continue our pattern, 1 loop around each of the 4 wires, stepping your way up from wire number 1 to wire number 4. Now there's 2 really important things I want you to remember on this weave pattern, and really any weave pattern. Be aware of your tension. What I mean by that is, how tight are you pulling your weaving wire? Because the tighter you pull it, not only is it going to change the shape of your base wires, it's going to shrink them down closer together. It's also going to make it really difficult for you to continue your weaving pattern, because your wires are going to be so close together, your base wires will be so close together that you're not able to fit the weaving wire in between them anymore. And then you're going to be struggling to push the weaving wire down so it's nice and close and snug together, which can also mar your wire, leave marks, leave tool marks. And we don't want a ton of tool marks on our piece. I'm going to go ahead and scrunch it on down. After I do those first 3 sets in the pattern, that's when I typically like to add a stone. If you were going to add a stone in the bail, what you would do is take the 2 middle wires, so wires 2 and 3, and fold them up at a 90-degree angle, or even a little bit further than that. And then you're going to switch to a figure 8 weave on wires 1 and 4. If you have not tried a figure 8 weave yet, I do have a tutorial for that on my YouTube page as well, so feel free to check that out. But you will do a figure 8 weave for the distance that you need your stone to sit in. So however wide your stone is that you're going to put in the bail, you're going to figure 8 weave to the width of your stone. Once you've got that figure 8 weave wide enough, you're going to pre-bend your wires 2 and 3 before you fold them back down. So pre-bend those wires, fold them back down over your stone so you have your stone in place, and then you're going to jump from the figure 8 weave back to the weave that you originally started with. And you will have a secured stone inside your bail. Also, if you struggle with the figure 8 weave but want a decorative bail, this is a super easy way to add decor on the bail without having to bother with the figure 8 weave. Just throw in 4 wires all together and do a really cool weave. You can put whatever weave pattern you want on these bails, which I think is so cool. It's a really flexible way to add even more designs to your pieces and make them more personalized and unique. Now, when you are weaving a bail like this, or when I create any of my bails, what I like to look for is the length of my cage piece, or even a frame piece. Whatever this length is here, that's about the length that I want to make my bail. So that when I fold it in half, it only takes up, it's only about the length of half of what my stone is. So it's not going to look like your bail is way too big for what your piece is. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this pattern all the way up until I'm about the length of my cage piece here, or a little bit shorter is okay too. So go ahead and continue your pattern up, and I'll meet you back when we are finished with that. Welcome back. So now you've got your bail woven to about the length of the cage frame or pendant area, or a little bit shorter than that. Mine's probably a little bit shorter than that, but I'm going to do one more pattern around, and then I'm going to show you how to end this bail weave. A loop around number 3 and a loop around number 4. Let's go ahead and scooch these ones on down nice and snug. Now, when we're talking about breaking wire off, or the end pieces of wire on a wearable piece of art like a pendant, 2 things. We want them to last. right? We don't want the wire to come unraveled. The second thing is we don't want ends of wires to be scratching whoever purchased this piece from us and is wearing it. So this is going to be the front of our bail. If we break it here, the end piece is going to be facing up. We don't want that because it can unravel easier, especially since it's only about half a loop around wire number 4 right now. It's not the full complete loop around, right? So it's going to be easier to unravel as it's worn, but also we don't want this to be right up against the skin because when we fold it back, the end of that could be very close to the skin and we don't want anybody getting scratched. So how we're going to end this bail is one more time we're going to come back down to wire number 1 and we're going to wrap once and twice. Now our weaving wire is going to be pointing towards the back and it's going to end up on the inside of the loop of our bail. So we're going to go ahead and break this wire off so we have a nice flush end to our weaving wire. So to do that, I'm going to turn this sideways so you guys can see. I'm going to put my index finger above, middle finger below my weaving wire. So you're pinching that weaving wire in between your index finger and your middle finger. My thumb is going to go directly on top of where I just stopped weaving. Directly on top. So now I've got a really good grasp on my base wires and my weave right there. I'm going to pull, so put some nice tension on there and wiggle in a circle. And it's going to break for you. You're not going to feel anything pokey at all. It's going to break nice and flush up against that base wire. Now, if you made this piece, the beginning wire here, long enough, I'm going to show you how to break it. So I like giving it a little tug to make sure the wires right here are nice and tight. Now to break this one, tilt it forward just a little bit, pinch with your tweezer nose pliers, pull up towards the binding part right there, those 3 loops around, pull up and wiggle. It's going to break it nice and flush. Nothing is pokey right there. You can also go back if you wanted to with your tweezer nose pliers and push that wire further up in there, but it's pretty far up in there already. So now let's go ahead and finish up our piece. In order to bend the bail, what I'm going to do is, and remember this is going to be a little bit stiffer to bend because you technically are working with 5 wires here to bend, the 4 base wires and your weaving wire. So it's going to be a little bit tougher to bend. Feel free to use a tool if you need to do this, but instead of you moving the tool to bend it, make sure you bend your wire over and around the tool. So don't move the tool, bend your wire around the shape of the tool. That way your wire won't get damaged. I'm going to go ahead and use my finger. To do that, I'm going to put my thumb right on top of where I bound all of those wires together, and my index finger is going to go just below about the halfway mark up your bail. I never measure these, I just eyeball them. So about halfway up, thumb over where it's bound. My middle finger is just below my index finger, which is right about where those wires are bound as well, just to offer it some more steadiness. So with my finger right here, you can see my finger's discoloring a little bit. I'm pushing pretty hard into this wire. With my other hand, I'm going to just take these 4 wires and bend this over my index finger until the bail is touching my fingernail in the back. And then I'm going to remove my finger. We're going to make sure all 4 of these wires go through the opening of our cage pendant. And then we're just going to pinch these 2 together. Your weave ending should be pretty dang close to where you started weaving. So it's nice and even like that. You can play with the shape of it, the angle of it, anything you want. But then we have our bail. So now we're just going to secure it down. I like to take the two middle wires first and bend them back up higher. And then we're going to take the two outside wires and put them right next to those middle ones there. Just like so. And then we'll go ahead and cut them all. To cut them, I pinch them between my index finger and my thumb. And then I'll just hold the cage pendant in between a couple fingers. That way, when you go and cut the wires, they're not going to go flying, and you've already got them in your fingers. And you're not going to drop your cage pendant because you're pinching it with other fingers. So we can set those scraps aside. You can bend these one at a time, or you can do both at a time, whatever is more comfy for you. I do squish them down one at a time though, to make sure each wire is nice and secure. There we go. All right, now we are ready to set our stone and finish our pendant. And two of my wires got twisted on me. Overlapped. Okay. So let's go ahead and bend our back wires in first here. All right, so you can see how thick that stone got. With all of those wires on there, we still have 4 wires across the edge, and it's covering the majority of the stone, but still not even all of it. So now, 22 gauge is not strong enough to hold this in on its own. So we're going to actually have 2 decorative wires coming forward on the front. So now there's even less wires on the side, but that stone is not going to come out the side. All right, let's go ahead and pop these ones up. Get it over that little curve up there on the polishing. I'm using mainly my finger to do this on this side because I don't want my tools directly against that abalone shell trying to, scrape across it, because I don't want to damage the stone. Now you can see there's a little bit of a gap there. So I'm going to take my nylon pliers and put it directly on the wire front and back and very gently squeeze to close that gap. You don't want to squeeze super hard because you don't want to damage your stone. Just like that. That stone is not going anywhere. It is solid. So now we just get to do our designs. And because we used 4 wires in the bail, that means, we would normally do 2 wires for the bail, right? So we would be left with 8 wires total, 4 on each side to decorate. Since we used 4 up here, and now we're left with only 6. So much easier to manage. We're not going to have way too many. If you love that many wires to decorate, absolutely go for it. And I'm going to reverse it, and we're going to do a little curl here. But before we fully curl it, let's go ahead and attach it. I'm going to get some half round. This is 22 gauge half round that I'm using to attach this down, or secure it down, I should say. There we go, that other end was way too overworked. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and clip this. Alright, just like that, we've got a finished piece with a 4-wire woven bail. Let me know if this tutorial was helpful for you, if you have any questions at all. We'll see you in the next one.